Hey everyone! Welcome to The Young and the Restless. I'm Jane, and I'm so excited to have you here. If you love Young and the Restless, then you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Alright, let's dive right in. Jack, please, don't tell anyone. Jill, why not? Jack, since if they discover. Jill, then what? Will you plead more forcefully? Jack, I'm not kidding, Jill. Everything might be ruined by this. Carter? Yes, I am. We must speak. Almost anything. What are you doing, Jack? Jill, come meet me at the docks. By themselves. Jack, you're doing something wrong. Jill, or am I at last repairing one? Is Jill the murderer? She might be, based on the way she enthusiastically enlists Carter and coldly manipulates Jack, particularly if the secret has a criminal connection. Her self-assurance suggests authority, possibly even remorse. Perhaps, though, she is simply revealing the true murderer. As Jill Abbott stood by herself in her Chancellor Estate study, staring at the light screen of her phone, the storm poured across Genoa City like a warning from above, with low thunder growling in the distance. Despite the warmth of the hearth, there was a coldness in her bones that no blanket could cure, and the house was strangely quiet except for the sound of the rain tapping against the towering windows. She hadn't actually slept for days. The previous week had been a haze of whispered discussions, whispers, suspicious looks, and the oppressive weight of guilt that continued to grip her like a second skin. Since Lily's terrible passing, everything had been falling apart, and while the rest of the town was in a state of bewilderment, sorrow, and indignation, Jill had been clinging to a secret so explosive that it threatened to topple everything Chancellor Winters had labored to restore. For days, she had been torn between exposing the rot that had long festered beneath the surface and protecting the people she loved. And now, with her jaw fixed and her fingers shaking, she was at last prepared to carry out the action that had long been necessary. She tapped the Carter contact, and her heart hammered like a war drum against her ribcage as the line started to ring. On the third ring, Carter answered in a low, unintelligible voice. Jill? He spoke carefully, as though he was well aware of how serious the situation was. Without hesitation, Jill stated, "We need to talk. Now." The other person paused for a long moment, leaving her to wonder if he would hang up or, worse, tell a lie. However, Carter never lied when it counted, and especially not when Jill Abbott was phoning in the middle of the night with a thunderous tone. "All right," he said. Jill turned away from the windows and paced the room, saying, "I'm listening. I am aware of what you have been looking into. I am aware that you believe someone inside helped hide Lily's fate. I want you to realize that things are not always as they seem." Carter waited in silence. His respiration was audible to Jill. She acknowledged, "There are things I've kept to myself. Things that date back many years. It's not only about Lily, though. It concerns Chancellor's actual transformation following Catherine's passing. About what I led it to become." Carter's cautious voice eventually reappeared. "Jill, are you implying that you had something to do with Lily's demise?" Jill ceased her pacing. Her back tensed. As if to taunt her, she turned to face the fireplace and watched the flames flicker. "No," she murmured, her voice trembling. Carter, ever the patient strategist, didn't press, but he did say, "But I might have created the conditions for it to happen." As if to stabilize the universe around her, Jill's fingers gripped the back of a leather chair as she inhaled. "Years ago, it all began with a transaction. One I made when Devin and Nate almost destroyed the business and I had to bring in silent investors to keep it afloat. I had to be desperate. I believed I could keep things under control and safeguard the family. However, I failed to read the fine print." Carter remained silent once more, but Jill could hear his thoughts racing. "Are you referring to the Winters division of the company?" he inquired. "Not only that," she remarked. "I am referring to the males who I brought in." He claimed to be one of them, but he wasn't. Marcus DeLeon was his fictitious name on paper. Carter Damien was his true name. "Your brother." Carter sounded genuinely shaken for the first time, and there was a sharp inhale on the other end of the line. "What?" "I was unaware at the time," Jill blurted out. "He was neat, intelligent, and convincing. He claimed to be able to make Chancellor a global figure and arrived with credentials and money. He did, however, have one requirement: silence. Just results, no board votes, no press. And he did provide at first. The earnings increased. The business prospered. However, Lily then began to inquire. She saw that money was missing. The reports have inconsistencies. And Jill stammered, the word snagging in her throat like a noose, when she brought it to me. Carter's voice trailed off. "I told her to let it go." "You silenced her?" Jill became softer after snapping. "I protected the business. Or I believed I was." I assured her that she was overanalyzing the situation and that it would work itself out. However, she continued. She continued to dig. She discovered links between offshore accounts and Damien. She discovered names. Bribes. Deals that might have put us both in jail. She approached me once again. She wasn't asking this time. There was a deafening quiet as she threatened to go public. As Jill closed her eyes, she recalled Lily's face, her unwavering resolve, and her loyalty, and how, in a moment of corporate cowardice, Jill had broken that loyalty. "I pleaded with her to hold off," Jill said. "I promised to take care of it." Then she vanished. Carter sounded as though he was barely suppressing his anger. "And now she's dead. And you believe my brother Damien had her murdered?" Jill took a while to respond. At last, she responded, "I don't know. However, I am aware of his abilities. I have witnessed him destroying those who stood in his way. He is careful, frigid, and never leaves any trace. However, I am also aware that he remains in Genoa City. And more people will perish if he realizes we're on him." Carter let out a slow exhale. "Why are you just now telling me this?" Jill became harsh in her voice. "Because I'm worn out from running, because I see someone I don't recognize when I look in the mirror. Additionally, Lily didn't deserve to pass away in fear and loneliness." Carter asked a more pointed inquiry after that. "If I don't speak now, I'm just as guilty. Why don't you call the police?" Jill paused. "Because they intend to bury it. They might even leak it. Everyone is around Damien. You have witnessed Amanda's discrediting following the hearing. How her data disappeared inexplicably. Do you truly believe that Chance or Christine can defeat him without going to war?" Carter's voice became cold. "So you're coming to me to tidy up your mess instead?" Jill gave a headshake. "I trust you, which is why I'm coming to you. Because the only person left capable of stopping him is you. And because there will be more blood on my hands if you don't." There was a prolonged silence that seemed to end at any second. "There's more," Jill remarked at last. "I haven't told anyone about something. I received a call from an unknown number the night Lily vanished." Her voice was all I could hear as I replied. She was in tears. Carter remained mute as she explained that she had erred by believing that someone was pursuing her. Jill's breath caught as she wiped her eyes. "I ought to have pursued her. I ought to have taken action. Rather, I said nothing. Because I reasoned that if I didn't protest, perhaps, just possibly, Damien would overlook it. With a calm rage, Carter said, but now she's gone, and her blood is on all our hands. Jill didn't disagree when she said, you may not have pulled the trigger, but you built the weapon. I understand. I need your assistance because of this. You must locate him for me. You must expose him for me. Carter's voice lowered to a whisper, and I need you to be ready, because when Damien goes down, he'll take everyone with him. Jill's lips tensed as she said, including you. So be it. After a lengthy pause, Carter resumed his speech. Send me everything. Names, files, and documents. Make sure to include everything. Jill nodded slowly, her fingers already starting to unlock the encrypted drive she had concealed within the Chancellor's safe. If I'm going to do this, I need it all. Carter hesitated and said, you'll have it in an hour. Jill, if this doesn't work out, you'll be the first person they come for. Jill gazed out the window once more as the city washed clean under the sheets of rain. Then I'll finally get what I deserve. The connection died, and Jill was once more left in the quiet of her transgressions all by herself. The chamber was filled with jagged shadows from the lightning that lit up the night sky outside, giving the impression that the home itself was haunted by the spirits she could no longer deny. And Damien was watching someplace, deep in the bowels of the city. Awaiting. And possibly preparing his next move already. With the weight of her secrets bearing down on her like a physical force, Jill's fingers shook as she called Carter's number. After the phone rung once and twice, the quiet was broken by Carter's steady, recognizable voice. Jill? What's happening? His tone had a hint of caution about it that hadn't been present before, not until things had begun to fall apart. Her thoughts were racing with the repercussions of what she was about to do, so she took a trembling breath. For weeks, the truth had been festering inside of her, skewing her perceptions and contaminating her sleep. She was no longer able to bear it alone. Her voice was hardly audible above a whisper as she murmured, Carter, we need to talk. Not in this manner. Face to face. Carter paused, and Jill could practically hear his suspicions scurrying to the surface during that moment. He had been investigating, posing queries, and assembling pieces of a puzzle that she had made a concerted effort to conceal. Was he starting to mistrust her already? Was he aware of her actions? A chill of horror shot through her chest at the thought. At last, he said in a reserved tone, all right. Where? She provided him with the address, an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town where nobody would bother them or overhear them. The reality of what she was going to do hit her hard the instant she hung up. She was giving him the ability to ruin her, not simply confessing. But perhaps she deserved that. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so hard that her knuckles became white, and the drive to the warehouse was a blur. Every passing car appeared to be a potential witness to her unraveling, and every shadow on the road seemed to mock her. By the time she got there, the sky had grown gloomy, with heavy clouds blotting out what little light remained. Ahead, the warehouse loomed, its shattered windows watching her approach like emptied eyes. The musty air was heavy with dust and rot when she entered. She was reminded of how alone she was, how alone she had always been in this, by the menacing echo of her own footsteps. Before she knew it, Carter's automobile drew up outside, its headlights piercing the darkness. With a tight stance, he went outside and looked around before focusing on her. She could see the mistrust engraved across his features, even in the low light. He had no faith in her. No more. With a low, menacing voice, he urged, start talking. No small talk, no pleasantries. Only the request for clarification. Jill's throat was dry as she swallowed hard. How did she start? How could she justify the decisions and boundaries she had crossed? With a broken voice, she began, "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. It wasn't meant to go this far." Carter stepped forward, his eyes sharp. "Jill, what wasn't intended to happen? What did you do?" He made a clear charge in his voice, which made her feel guilty all over again. The truth felt alien to her since she had been lying and acting for so long. "I was aware of the money," she said, speaking quickly. Carter's face darkened as he said, "I knew where it was hidden, and I took it." "You took something from them?" With tears in her eyes, she nodded. "I had no other option. Carter, they were going to destroy me. They possessed evidence of my actions, which I was unable to conceal." The weight of her revelation hung in the air as a thick stillness descended between them. Carter's jaw tensed as his mind obviously tried to make the connection. "And the others?" he asked gently. "They were the ones that died. Was that something you were involved in?" Jill's throat tightened with breath. She had been dreading this moment. What was the point of lying and trying to make up a new story? He would see right through it. He did. She muttered, "I didn't kill anyone," but she was aware of how phony it sounded. Carter's gaze grew strained. "Then, who did?" Her heart was beating so loudly that she was certain he could hear it, so she turned her head aside. She lied and said, "I don't know." However, she was aware. She had witnessed them suppress anyone who came too close to the truth, and she had seen the killer's face. However, acknowledging it would entail acknowledging her own weakness and involvement. With his voice falling to a perilous whisper, Carter stepped forward once more. "If you're lying to me, Jill, I'm not." With desperation gnawing at her, she intervened. "However, there are other things that you don't comprehend." He shook his head, his patience becoming thin. "Things I can't explain." She opened her mouth to say, "Try," but the words would not come. How could she explain to him that she had been coerced into participating in something much greater than either of them? How could she convince him that she wasn't the monster he had assumed her to be? They both froze before she could find the correct words because of a noise coming from the shadows. A figure entered the faint light as a slow, purposeful clapping reverberated around the building. Jill's blood froze. Perhaps it was the very person she should have expected, yet it was the last thing she expected. The person responded, "Well, this is touching," in a mockingly sympathetic tone. Carter whirled around, reaching for his pistol out of instinct, but the stranger merely chuckled. "Oh, Carter, don't bother. Isn't everyone here a friend?" Jill felt as though her legs would buckle under her. This cannot be taking place. Not right now. Not in this manner. With a chilly grin, the figure cocked their head to examine her. "Jill, you were expected to remain silent." With tears running down her cheeks, she shook her head, saying, "That was the deal. I was unable to." The figure groaned, seemingly unhappy, "I can't do this anymore." Carter's eyes darted between them as he realized, "And here I thought you were smarter than this." His voice was tight with rage as he declared, "You are the one responsible for all of this." The figure gave a shrug. "As accused, I am guilty. But whether she likes to acknowledge it or not, Jill has been a very useful accomplice here." Jill felt sick to her stomach. "That is untrue. You made me do this." The figure's smile continued to grow. "Did I? Or did you simply seize the chance when you saw it?" Carter turned to face her, his face displaying a mixture of shock and betrayal. "What the devil is happening, Jill?" The words stuck in her throat as she tried to explain and help him comprehend. How could she convince him that she had been confined and that her every decision had been a last-ditch effort to stay alive? The figure advanced one more step, choking with their presence. It's easy, Carter. From the start, Jill has been on both sides of this. She was aware of the murders and the money, but she took no action to stop them. Indeed, she was helpful. Carter's expression clouded as he gripped his handgun more tightly. Is that accurate? Tears clouded Jill's vision. It's not that easy, she stutteringly said. The apparition chuckled once more, sending chills down her spine, and said, You don't know what they threatened me with. Oh, don't tell us about the crying. Carter's eyes hardened, and Jill realized she had lost him. You had your chances to walk away, and you didn't take them. Whatever connection they had previously had, whatever trust they had established, was gone. Disgust took its place. By animosity. His voice was icy as he declared, You're just as guilty as they are. The figure gave a nod of approval. Exactly. This is what is going to occur. Carter, you're going to leave and forget anything ever happened. Otherwise. Carter's jaw tightened. Otherwise, what? Something much more dreadful took the place of the figure's smile. Otherwise, Jill here will have to pay for her treachery. And believe me, it won't happen quickly. Jill breathed in quick, terrified bursts. It was this. It ended like this. Not with escape or redemption, but with Carter staring at her as if she were the enemy. Perhaps she was. Perhaps she had been from the beginning. For an instant, she thought she saw something, doubt, sorrow, perhaps even pity, when Carter paused and fixed his gaze on hers. However, he took a step back as his face stiffened. Jill, you made your decisions, he replied softly. He turned and left her alone with the murderer after saying, Now you live with them. The creature laughed and drew nearer. With the weight of her choices crushing her, Jill closed her eyes and said, Looks like it's just you and me now. To finally confess the truth, she had phoned Carter to share her secrets. However, the truth had ultimately failed to save her. She had been ruined by it. She couldn't help but question if she had ever been truly innocent as the figure's hand curled around her arm.